Hello, my name is Taylor Clark, and I am doing the voiceover for our multicultural counseling project. This PowerPoint is going to go over 3 strengths. It's going to include some quotes from the ACA, AACC, and the Sue and Sue book, as well as an insert from our Williams text. My group members are Mercedes Null, Farah Helgerson, and Elena Duran. So I want to jump right into it. Our first point is strengths and resiliencies that a lot of these ethnic minorities possess. Number 1, coping with stress and other negative symptoms. Number 2, dealing with discrimination. 3, improving self-esteem. And 4, social and emotional support. So although dealing with discrimination and having a low self-esteem and emotional support may be null or not as much as needed, it is our right as counselors to be able to provide a safe space so that they can deal with their stress and other negative symptoms. Improving self-esteem is very large in our goal as a multicultural counselor. Improving their emotional support, either that be leaning on a collective family support system or their community rather than an individualistic lifestyle, may be important. It really depends on their ethnicity and what they feel comfortable with doing. Dealing with discrimination is extremely hard. This could be sexual discrimination, this could be gender discrimination, and this could be religious discrimination, anti-Semitism, as well as racial discrimination. As you can see at the bottom of this slide, I have a graph for African Americans, American Indian, Native Americans, Alaskan Natives, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Latinx, multiracial, and Arab Americans. As you can see throughout their minority culture, it is about family, it's about collectivism, it's about tribes, it's communal, and it's about adaptability and connections. And all of these, I would personally say you can put them into one category. It's very different from Western culture. Here in America, everything is individualistic, so that's something to be aware of if you are counseling someone in any of these groups of ethnic minorities. The strengths of African American culture should be acknowledged, praised, and encouraged by counselors. Another example of particular cultural strengths is the deep respect and affection of family, community, and tradition in Latin American cultures. The whole family is intricate, and the decisions that a counselee might make could affect the entire family. So it's very important to give emphasis to the counselee or the client in order for them to weigh out their options on how things would affect their family. For American Indians, Native Americans, and Alaska Natives, it's heavily induced upon the tribe that they are in. So it's important to know the different tribes for that specific culture. For Asian Americans, it's also a very collective group. So a father would have a large emphasis on disciplining after a child is over the age of 8 or 9 years old, but before that, it's the mother who disciplines the children. There can be a lot of positive experiences for this specific culture if the counselor is able to hone in on the client's relationship with their parents. The ACA Code of Ethics. Honoring diversity, embracing a multicultural approach, and supporting the worth, dignity, potential, and uniqueness of people with their social and cultural context is a core professional value for licensed professional counselors, as outlined in the ACA Code of Ethics. This is important to consider when discussing point 1, strengths and resiliencies. Another way counselors can honor diversity and adhere to the ACA Code of Ethics is by being aware of the particular and potential challenges each culture faces and educating themselves on them so that they can help their clients better face them. Counselors need to be very educated on the unique struggles each culture faces so they can help their clients deal with these struggles psychologically and emotionally. Counselors must help build their clients' self-esteem in the face of these struggles. And this relates to point 2, challenges. The ACA Code of Ethics forbids counselors from undermining their clients' religious views and imposing their own on them. So while the book Confronting Injustice Without Compromising the Truth argues that the Christian worldview and gospel must be upheld overall, counselors do not have the freedom to do this in their profession, which means that you cannot follow the AACC over the ACA. So this can really confuse a lot of future counselors in the aspect that there is a tiered system of following as a counselor. The Texas Behavioral Health Committee is one of them, as well as the American Counseling Association for the Code of Ethics. And then you can follow the AACC. The ACA continued. C2A states multicultural counseling competency is required across all counseling specialties. Counselors gain knowledge, personal awareness, sensitivity, dispositions, and skills pertinent to being a culturally competent counselor and working with a diverse client population. E5B states that counselors recognize that culture affects the manner in which clients' problems are defined and experienced. Clients' socio-economic and cultural experiences are considered when diagnosing mental disorders. A4B states personal values counselors are aware of and avoid imposing their own values, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. Counselors respect the diversity of clients, trainees, and research participants and seek training in areas in which they are at risk of imposing their values onto clients, especially when the counselor's values are inconsistent with the client's goals or are discriminatory in nature. Number 4, E8, multicultural issues and diversity. An assessment counselors select and use with caution assessment techniques normed on populations other than that of the client. Counselors recognize the effects of age, color, culture, disability, ethnic group, gender, race, language preference, religion, spirituality, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status on test administration and interpretation, and they place test results in proper perspective with other relevant factors. The second point that we believed had great importance was the special challenges. Challenges have direct implications on the counseling process. The task of the therapist is to help the client understand the effects of these multiple experiences on their presenting concern and allow this understanding to guide conscious, growth-producing choices. This was from the Sue and Sue book. However, therapists must not assume these challenges are the sole reason for the client's presenting concern. Challenges continued. African Americans, their structural, income, health, and education, and interpersonal racism, discrimination, internalized racism, acceptance of racial stereotypes, beliefs, and ideologies that devalue people of color, and gendered racial challenges. American Indian, Native Americans, and Alaskan Natives, educational concerns, acculturation conflicts, alcohol and substance abuse is extremely high for American Indians, domestic violence, that's also a number one cause of death in the Native American community, and suicide, which I think it's 1 out of 5 people from a very young age to the age of about 30. Asian American and Pacific Islanders, they struggle with racial, ethnic, cultural identity conflicts, acculturation complex, expectations for counselors as the expert, racism and discrimination. Latinx, individuals living in the U.S. with ancestry from Spanish-speaking Caribbean islands and Central and South America communities. We'll go over this. It's xenophobia, discrimination, ethno-racial trauma, racism in schools, mental health stigmas, acculturation conflicts, and gender role conflicts. Multiracial Americans, racial ethnic ambiguity, what are you? The Inquisition can result in invalidation, conflicting loyalties to the racial and ethnic identities of parents, and internal trauma, stated by Sue and Sue. Intermarriage stereotypes and myths, discrimination, racism, and microaggressions, and Arab American stereotyped terrorist violence, etc., discrimination, mispresented legal invisibility. And that could be said with the legal invisibility that can be for American Indians, African Americans, Latinx. I mean, it really can be for all of these ethnic minorities. The gospel impact. This is the third and final point. The Bible commands that we love our neighbors, speak truth in love, and be generous. But those commands are not the gospel and should not replace it. Social justice is from the gospel. Social B perspective interprets all inequality as injustice, always more to do, nothing is ever good enough, no way to atone for all this sin produces a sense of hopelessness. The gospel. At the top of a Christian worldview, we find a creator who is not only just, the ultimate standard by whom all our actions must be judged, but also the justifier of his creatures. Williams, 2020. Justice isn't an option, but it isn't the gospel and cannot save anyone. Only Jesus can. Social justice B tries to hide that truth. And here are the Bible verses. 1 Corinthians 1:10, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and thought. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's really important to see how the Bible verses relate to the reading. So, number 1 was our strengths and resiliencies. In Corinthians, the overall passage states that having a strong support system and family that revolves around God gives an individual the necessary tools that assist in their resilience and strength without a division. Now, this may be true for the Christian worldview and the family. Multiculturally, this will not work for absolutely everyone. So you really have to gauge who your audience is and what their spiritual and religious background is. Giving them hope and the motivation to continue with their healing process, to build boundaries, and dealing with adversities. Number 2, Proverbs. Facing multiple challenges can raise concerns for the client's progress during counseling. Although each diverse background upholds their own set of adversities, we must remember to avoid developing any preconceptions about each background. And I basically stated that when I was speaking about Corinthians. And this is for challenges. Number 3, we are going to be looking at the gospel. Romans. Williams 2020 explains that God is just and we are meant to follow him only. It is following the Lord's word while seeing the gospel as the instructions and guidelines of how to act. And this is relating to social B versus social justice A. So in that text, it was really adamant that social justice A proceeded over social justice B, and that social justice A was more accepting, and social justice B was more questioning. AACC 1520. Christian counselors earnestly strive to develop and maintain culturally competent awareness and practices such as, but not limited, 1. Awareness of one's personal worldview and its impact on the counseling process. 2. Knowledge of various cultural practices and worldviews, including those that may conflict with the Judeo-Christian worldview. And 3. Cross-cultural sensitivity and skills that enhance the helping process. 1540. Counselors proactively communicate with clients in a culturally sensitive manner, especially when obtaining consent, defining the scope of care during assessment and evaluation procedures, including instruments that are selected, and addressing any developmental and/or linguistic issues that may be present. 1530A states that while Christian counselors may expose clients and/or the community at large to their faith orientation, they do not impose their religious beliefs or practices on clients. 1530 states that working with persons of different faiths, religions, and values, counselors work to understand the client's belief system, always maintain respect for the client, and strive to understand when faith and values issues are important to the client. And AACCY 2014 Code of Ethics 26 foster values-informed consent decision-making in counseling. Counselors share their own faith orientation only as a function of legitimate self-disclosure and, when appropriate to client need, always maintaining a posture of humility. Christian counselors do not withhold services to anyone of a different race, ethnic group, faith, religion, denomination, or value system. Here are all of my group members' references. We first have the American Counseling Association, the American Association of Christian Counselors, New International Version Bible, Sue and Sue, Counseling the Culturally Diverse Theory and Practice, and Williams, Confronting injustice without compromising the truth. 12 questions Christians should ask about social justice. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.